welcome to this episode of the Zoom Room Sessions as part of our Thriving Tribe project. My name is David Francis Moore and this is my colleague,
Juliet.
And today we are joined by Monika Sapielak, who is an arts manager, producer, curator, cultural worker with over 25 years experience working in the EU cultural sector. He's also the co-founder and CEO of the Centre for Creative Practices in Ireland. Monika, thank you so much for joining us.
First of all, I will stick to English, and the reason for it is that different parts of my life happen in different languages, and the type of work with creative entrepreneurship, with curating, being arts manager, producer, it happens mostly in English. So that's why I'm very happy to stick to that language. Sometimes I mix it up with German because a part of my work happens in German, and Polish is rather my private language, if you want. But how would I describe myself as an arts professional? So definitely somebody who has been constantly redeveloping, reinventing herself or myself, because I think that's what you do in the sector. You work on a project for a while, the project gets to an end, and then you start, okay, what's next? What is left over from the project? Is there something you want to follow up, or is there something completely new that happened? And so giving you some overview, I started as a literature interpreter, translator, working with poetry and between Polish and German. Then I moved towards philosophy and aesthetics, but also using it as a part of for my writing, creative writing, and especially in the theatrical area. Then at the same time I was working with theater quite a lot as a coordinator, as a director's assistant, directing my own small pieces and installations till I moved to Ireland, set up Centre for Creative Practices, started working initially with the Polish community and bringing Polish artists to Ireland to give migrant artists who live in the country continuity and connection to their home culture, but also to give international audiences here in Ireland possibility to learn something more about Polish culture than they knew Lech Wałęsa or Jean Paul II, and quite often that was it. And I've been doing this for 2 or 3 years till other communities started approaching me and saying, okay, you are doing this great job for the Polish community, what about us? Czechs, Slovaks, Hungarians, Brazilians, Germans, Indians, etc., etc., etc. And so that the Center for Creative Practices was born from organization that was initially called Art Polonia. So as you see, it is a constant process. It is a constant new redevelopment. It is constant questioning. It is constantly adding, taking away, and every year when you apply for the Arts Council funding or any other type of funding, you formulate your strategy, you formulate your goals, you formulate your plans, and each time you see, okay, maybe that's not anymore, and maybe that comes to it. It is definitely an open-end process. I have no idea what is at the end. And you started with this industry, arts and academia, the combination of it. I think working in the arts sector, if you want to be heard and if you want to represent some people, organizations, and connect into a broader discourse, you have to be probably, I would say, fit in all these 3 aspects. This is quite important. And who is my work for? That is, I think, again, there are a couple of groups we work with and for. The main concern of us are migrant artists in Ireland, because that is the mission of the Centre for Creative Practices, to support these people who are new to the country, who didn't study here, who might not have the language, who might not have the skills to show themselves to the broader audiences. So that's what we try to provide them with, any type of support to promote them, to support them, to integrate them, and to also help them to become sustainable, and in terms of the professional development. So in one respect, we are talking here very, very strongly about migrant artists. On the other side, of course, only us and the migrant artists, that wouldn't work, because we need other organizations that would allow us to work with the migrant artists. So other type of stakeholders would be organizations like the Arts Council or like Visual, any other local organizations who are interested in and open enough to work with the migrant artists, to include them into their programming, include them into the financial stream, because that is absolutely the sine qua non for being able to do the work. And on that, in that respect, we work with the local arts organizations and any other type of organizations who support our cause.
Mm-hmm.
Is that, and of course there are audiences, yes, we did, as long as we had a space, because up to between 2010 and 2015, we used to run a physical space in Dublin where we were able to physically present events, up to 4 or 5 events per week, and we, over that 5 years, we welcomed there nearly 20,000 audiences, doing very diverse programs. At this moment, because we've lost this space due to the end of the recession, you know, NAMA and the landlord losing the building, we were just renting. We could not afford, with the Dublin prices, to open the space. But of course, and in that respect, the audiences as such, which were always international audiences in Ireland, including local and newcomers to the country interested in multidisciplinary and culturally diverse programs, this focus is at the moment less present. You know, a space, the idea of space is for me related with the time and connected with type of nostalgia, because if you used to run your own space and you have to give it up, it does leave a disappointment, a wound, if you want, or there is, you leave with this lack of this space. And it was very, very tough. On the other hand, a space for an arts organization is of course a huge liability. A space is also, as much as it gives you many opportunities, the space limits you, because running a space, maintaining a space, programming a space, managing a space, promoting a space, getting artists, etc., all these cost incredible amount of work, time, money as well. And if that all is very scarce, it becomes a struggle. And we struggled for 5 years like crazy. I don't know how we did it. We slept it sometimes, you know, overnight, because we had just jam session or a jazz concert till 3 in the morning, and then venue hire for some private company to keep us going from 9 in the morning. So there was no point to go home in between, you know. So this is on one hand side what I associate with the space. But I think the need for the space was for me absolutely clear, because it gave migrant artists, and at that time we tried also to expand it to emerging and experimental artists, finding that these 3 groups have so much in common, that to give an address, that we are programming what they want us to program, with a little bit curatorial decision making, you know, but trying to facilitate them as much as it only possible. That actually doesn't happen in any other space, because everybody is depending on their funding. Their funding is depending on their programming. Their programming has to be agreed and planned year or 2 or 3 ahead. And that makes the space for the the cohort of artists I'm looking after, if you want, as well, or talking about, it makes the access much more difficult. And that's what we experienced after we've lost the space, that we could rent the space, and we had for first I think 2 or 3 years, fantastic collaboration with Dublin Institute of Design in Kildare Street, an old 5-story Georgian building where every year on the Culture Night we presented our New Voices of Ireland series. And New Voices of Ireland was an always open call, a program, multidisciplinary program based on socially engaged topics, quite often similar or in line with Creative Europe topics, if you are familiar with them. So we selected from 50, 60, 70 applications. We always selected 10 artists, and in different spaces in the building, we presented these artists for one night, which is quite heartbreaking, actually, because to present and to put together a professional show of 10 artists, it doesn't matter how long is the show for, it's the same amount of work. You know, so if you have a couple of concerts, performances, visual arts, a couple of workshops, all put together for one night, which was fantastic, because we had at night 1,000 people and more coming through the door, which was absolutely fantastic turnout. But still, knowing this is an institute that is actually educational place, and they need the space 2 or 3 days later. So in the best case, we could maybe extend it to 2 days, but not much longer. So huge limitation in that respect. Also the fact Georgian building, try to hang a good, heavy, big format visual work in a Georgian building. You have the whole Georgian society in your back. And of course, you completely understand it and respect this, that they have to look after this heritage. So would be very, but you have to be incredibly creative, and you have a very short, very narrow timeline when you can actually install the show and take down the show, which makes the whole process really, really, really stressful. Still, we enjoyed it very, very much. Then we worked with Delight Studios. Again, fantastic space, but in Dublin 1, bit off the beaten track, huge and incredibly raw. You know, some artists, especially when they are younger artists, some are very cool, but some say, oh my God, the walls, you know, and you have to negotiate that actually this post-industrial feel to it, and this roughness gives them extra, but it's not always given. They want nice glossy galleries, but you don't have it. You know, we were very lucky in our own space in the Center for Creative Practices that we did bring it to a very, very high standard with fantastic light system, fantastic hanging system that was appropriate to the Georgian walls we had in the space. But when you are parachuting, if you want, yourself with your program, that's not given. And you have to have, you know, all your tools more or less in your handbag or in your van, and be able to pull it off and in within hours. Now in Dublin Business School, digital marketing, and trying, you know, to get really familiar. I'm in that respect, I'm the old school. I'm type of, you know, Berlin-like small personal spaces, looking like an extended living room where you can run the most bizarre and the most experimental and demanding things. That's where I come from, kind of aesthetically, if you want. But of course, we have to adjust, and we're very open to it. But I'm kind of struggling, what is the right thing here to do? For some concepts, yes, for visual arts, I'm not really sure. You know, this is actually a process. I don't have an answer here. I cannot say we have migrated. We are communicating partly with people, if we have to, through the digital media, but we haven't we haven't probably found our right space there yet. You know, my personal working practice has been probably on the backseat for the last 10 years because my focus was to support the migrant artists I was working with. So in that respect, okay, you can say every show I curated was my personal practice as such, but my personal contribution to it was maybe the overarching vision, how it could happen. But I really tried to make the space as open to the artists, because when you get 70 applications, even if you have a topic like hybridizations of our identities, that was one of the topics for the New Voices of Ireland series, which we started 2013, and we are still continuing. You don't know what type of work comes into it, so you have to be completely open. If I would come on it with too strong idea of myself, I probably would be the wrong person for it, because here it's really about showing these new voices of Ireland in some context. So my work was, how do you put 10 completely different multidisciplinary artists in one space without them clashing, killing each other, and having a coherent show? That is my work. But as I said, I probably wouldn't. It is a bit like of a conductor, a little bit of a director, a manager, facilitator. It's the mix. The collaboration first of all with the artists, of course. And what I wanted as well, the artists to collaborate among themselves, because in many areas of the creative practice, it is a solitary process, but we are social creatures. So how do you end? We need the inputs and we need the irritations and disruptions and challenges and enrichment. You know, we need these interactions. So to bring these people together. Oops, sorry, I'm using my hands too much and losing my headphones. So that was one of the processes, to bring the people together and show them, look, you are not alone in this. There are people who are struggling as you, or have maybe been already there and can help you. This peer exchange, peer learning with somebody like this outside, or not really outside, but the perspective of me as a facilitator. That was one thing. Then me, them, and us together collaborating with the venue. Very important, because they have to say, if they kick us out, we don't have an alternative. It's very, very difficult to run the show. And when you are renting, when you don't have this established space like before, it's much more limited. So you have to do it. And this is a negotiation process, explanation process of why do you think that would work? How do you think it would work? And you deal with you know, various layers of support and limitation. This is because on one hand side, I always assume people want to support and people want to collaborate with you, which in this cases is true. But of course, they have their boards, they have their programs, they have their fundings, they have their audiences, they have their missions, visions, etc., and they have to stick to it as well. So it is a negotiation, constant negotiation. Then you have the Arts Council, for example, who is our main supporter, and without them we would not have survived. That also has a very clear program and strategy. Where do you fit into their long-term or short-term strategy? So are you more migrant artists, or are you more experimental artists? And why are you multidisciplinary, or why are you not just one small, you know, part of or genre that you would focus on? And you have to find good reasons and good ways to communicate. I think it's communication, collaboration, and being very patient sometimes. Very patient. I think if you If you talk to probably every artist, especially if you talk about their finances, you will say, yes, it is necessary. Because there is this problem, you might have heard it many times, when rich business people come together, they talk about arts, but when arts people come together, they talk about money. And that is for one very, very clear reason. Many and probably most of artistic people, most creative people in our communities, in our societies, and this is pan-European project or problem. It is not, it's a structural problem in Europe and many other parts of the world. We create or we help creative people to become very creative. We don't help them to make their living. And this is heartbreaking. This is wrong, and we disconnected the arts from normal life. We've built this incredible gap that they are the artists, the weirdos, you know, and they are all the genius, which is quite connected in many heads. And there is the mob, and they are the other people and who don't understand it maybe, and they have to look after, you know, their daily needs. Artists to have them as well. So without being able to, first of all, more professionalize than it is now, the artistic career, and giving them entrepreneurship is one way, professionalization and normal employment is another way. I think entrepreneurship is not an answer for everything, because there is no one answer for everything and one solution fitting all problems. No, completely not. But it is one of the options that I think it connects very well with the artistic spirit. Because being an artist, you are entrepreneurial all the time. You try out different materials, you try out different situations, you try out different venues, you try out, you know, whatever you try out and come up with something that possibly wasn't there before, or from a perspective that is new. And this is entrepreneurial. So in that respect, I think the entrepreneurial method or the entrepreneurial approach is natural to the artistic sector. But as I said, I was probably very much preaching that entrepreneurship is the answer for everybody. I've changed my mind over the couple of years, because being self-employed is also incredibly, incredibly challenging. So we have to find a way. But I think for me, the most important thing is we have to professionalize the artistic career. It is a profession, it is a job that deserves to be paid the same way, like a dentist is paid, like a lawyer is paid, like a bus driver is paid, you name it, you know. And how we then manage this, how we organize it, that is another question. And that could be, as I said, through employment, could be through support scheme, could be through entrepreneurship. You know, the Arts Council sent at the beginning of the COVID, sent the survey to artists. So what could they do? What should they do? And I try to kind of persuade them to professionalize, or to really almost employ the artists. You know, it is very absurd. It's probably impossible, but in some countries, I think in France, it's so that if you are recognized as an artist, which is a problematic concept as such, then you get state support, and you get this kind of basic salary that allows you to work creatively. Is it fair? Is it okay? Is it enough? This is too big discussion. I think this is a complete, you know, a research project as such. I don't want to throw things that are just completely raw. I think what we have now, that more or less every artist is left alone, is not working, and is not supporting our societies. It's not supporting our cultures. We are not utilizing the human potential we have. And that applies to both local graduates and migrant artists or newcomer artists to every country, because the graduate, after feeling a god for 4 or 5 years because they have been accepted, you know, they've been studying with these incredibly creative people, get a beautiful diploma, are set in front of the door, and they have no clue what to do. And the anxieties, problems, a desperation, and then trying to survive. You know, I've worked with few thousand of artists, and I think maybe 5 can make the living out of it. Some of them try to compensate it with this managerial work, administrative work. Some of them work as carers, some of them work as teachers. This is all valid. This is all valid. But what is the system and the solution to go forward? I don't know, because I could say, yeah, give them the tools, make them entrepreneurial. Sorry, bullshit, because it is so difficult to survive. And how long can you be asked to reinvent yourself? You know, when you are a dentist, a teacher, you are learning. Of course, you have to respond to the market, etc. But I think the demand on the artistic sector, on the artists, are much higher. Try for some composers to explain they work to somebody who will never get contemporary music, and you know, because they are doing such a niche product doesn't mean they shouldn't be supported. Or also the arts council process, or any other council process, any other funding process, there are always this criteria, and I don't think so artists even learn it in their education, how to write grants, how to write business plans, how to write, you know, all these aspects. Probably my answer to it would be now, get a good list, comprehensive list of various aspects, professional aspects, including grant writing, including job application, including entrepreneurship, bring it together and design a subject that could be taught on all artistic academias. Because I know I worked in IADT, I studied in UCD, in arts management, and I know different organizations or institutions have different focus. Employment is still very strong one, but 75% of artists are self-employed. So, you know, and entrepreneurship, yeah, there is a lot of talking about entrepreneurship throughout creative educational institutions, higher educational institutions in Europe, but it doesn't seem to convert really. People have the ideas, but it is so incredibly difficult. From 10 startups, 1 or 2 in tech field, they survive. Why would it be different in the art sector, which is so much more competitive? I think this is the one, again, another problem. Art sector is much more competitive than many other sectors we ever think of. You know, you think business is competitive. I think arts are much worse. It is one of the top sports, winner takes all business, and the rest has to really struggle to make their living. All of them? I don't think so. You could leave any of them. I absolutely don't think there is any chance. But I think they are basic competence for human life. You know, I think they are much broader competencies than just for creative professionals. I think dealing with ambiguities and uncertainties, that's what we do all the time, being able to work with others and motivate others. If we want to influence something, we can, humans, you know, became this apparently leaders on earth because they motivated others to do things they wanted to do in a much bigger groups. Otherwise, we are, as a species, especially individuals, we're quite useless. We could be genius, but I think we are overrated anyway. Sorry, I shouldn't be going to it. But no, all the skills you mentioned are absolutely critical. I wish they would be part of primary, secondary, that level. It's easier to say, education, and probably I would add to it self-care, well-being, and caring about others to make it even more comprehensive. Of the arts, even like looking at the Project Art Center that started in the 70s in Temple Bar as a tiny organization and is one of the national organizations. This is entrepreneurial. Entrepreneurial and very smart to be able to do it, and not everybody is able to do it, but it's absolutely amazing. I don't know if you are familiar with the screenings in Fitzwilliam Square. They were run for a while. There's millions of things like this, really, probably. Or the Chocolate Factory. Of course, it was an entrepreneurial endeavor. And the Light Studios, our center, it is, every successful artistic project is an entrepreneurial project where you have to plan not only your artistic output, but also the budget, the collaboration, the space, all the audience, the programming, the promoting, all the aspects. They are entrepreneurial artifacts, or if you or actions. Society allowed to thrive arts professionals full stop anywhere? I don't think so. But is it should we blame the society? I don't think so. This is we are where we are. I think the thing we definitely need to analyze why we are where we are and why it is so incredibly tough, why it is so incredibly difficult to make your living as an arts professional, because it is desperately difficult. And I think it's becoming more difficult somehow. And the discrepancy between what artists earn and what you can earn in other professions is getting bigger and bigger. So it is desperate. But I wouldn't say the society doesn't allow me. I think we have a certain level of development, understanding of a societal structure that needs to be developed further. And then we need the consensus from both sides, I think, to make it really stable and to make it really beneficial to everybody. Because what I'm not supporting here is this demanding approach, or I'm an artist, I should have more, or I should get more, or I should get everything for free. That's wrong as well. That's wrong as well. And I don't think so with this approach we will be able ever to convince really the majority of the society we need to convince that the arts are important. We need to be able, and I think what started probably in the 80s, this bringing art to the people, not expecting only people to come to you, and because you've produced your great work, so they have to come and they have to appreciate it. No, maybe you have to go and look where they are and how you can make them really enjoying the art you are doing. It is two-way street, and I think as much as the society said to the artist, you're weird, we don't care, the artist said the same to the society. You're weird, we don't care. We need to break this vicious circle. think I was always very, very creative person, first of all. Really creative, just, with everything. Always trying to figure out what can be done with this. That is one thing. I was always, I learned a lot. I studied a lot. I was always interested in figuring out more or reading more or, asking more questions. That is another bit. Then the third one, I'm a very good organizer. And I think there will be another one. I'm probably incredibly stubborn. I'm kind of persistent and adventurous. I probably didn't have enough life fear to not to have made some decisions I probably then shouldn't, because my life could have been much easier doing something else, but I did. And so I think these things, creativity, this ability to learn and being open to it, ability to implement, to really put in practice things, because ideas and the outputs are two different things. You need to bring them together. And then being really perseverant and being able to get up after all the kicks when you down on the floor, and you get up again and try, fail better. Yeah, fail again and fail better.
This has been Monika Sapielak. Monika, if people want to find out more about your work and what you do, what's your website and what's your social media handles?
We have two websites. One is Center for Creative Practices website, which is very simple. It's cfcp.ie. And we also have a website that should be integrated to the first one, but it hasn't done yet. It is creativeentrepreneurs.ie, where we try to work on the topics we've been talking about. We have also a LinkedIn, a Facebook and Twitter accounts, and they are all CFCP.ie.
Brilliant.
Please join us, and anybody, if they have any questions, need any help in terms of creative diversity, integration, migrant artists, or creative entrepreneurs, we are there. We are there to answer any questions.
Excellent, and thanks for joining us.